Hi, welcome to the TOWTalk Podcast. Today is Sunday, March 1st, 2026. And I'm just getting over a cold. I'm here with Neil. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Welcome to the shit show, everybody.
Oh, wow. So, life is, really, life has gone to shit these days. But Neil and I are going to talk about the middle class. And so, Neil, you had something you wanted to discuss regarding
Right. We
a
we
middle.
were talking a little about offline about this, and it was really interesting. So I want to pose to you, Denise, and as well as the public. You know, for a long time in this country, we've talked about the middle class. This has been sort of an ongoing thing, right? Everything for the middle class. We talk robustly about the middle class. Politicians, right, always talk as if they're speaking to the middle class, right? That working class in the public. And so I want to ask you, why do you think we have that today?
Well, I guess I would say we evolved from the Depression era and from FDR's policies in sort of pulling us out of the Depression through taxing the wealthy class and putting that tax money to work and reinvesting it in the country, putting
So
Americans to work.
right. So that becomes an interesting topic, okay?
Okay.
Because for the longest time in this country, we have really talked about and we've seen exploitation of the working class, right?
Yes.
Going all the way back to slavery. Okay. And you talk about the exploitative nature of workers versus corporations or businesses, whatever you want to call that. Um and my grandfather, back at the turn of the century, he fought for workers' rights. He was a seamstress, in New York City, during the workers' rights revolution. He was there during the Triangle Fire.
Okay.
So we've seen this happen, but it's not as if, workers unionizing in the early 1900s led to a middle class. It led to worker safety, but it didn't really, garner into an increasing or robust middle class, right? It did a little bit better on wages and various other things, but what really helped was the idea of, right, the 30-year mortgage, the idea that we could build something, that we could build equity in this country. But that wasn't born out of the idea like the politicians or the wealthy or the millionaires wanted that. It was given. It was like given to us. It wasn't like a right, you know. It was FDR, right, turning to the millionaires. Remember, it was millionaires versus millionaires. Turning to the millionaires and says, "I'm saving capitalism." They didn't want it. I'm saving capitalism. Why was he saving capitalism? Because he knew that there needed to be a balance between workers and the wealthy class, the business class.
Right.
Okay? Because otherwise the workers would rise up and slay their oppressors. I mean, like you don't need to go far in history to see where that's been relevant throughout history. I think it was I want to say Josh Johnson, who was doing a podcast with Trevor Noah, said
Okay.
said you know your paycheck that you get every 2 weeks is essentially so you don't rise up and slay your boss. Like, I mean, that's really all it is. Like, I mean, you think about it. If your boss decided not to pay you, what would you
Oh,
do?
yeah.
Right?
Oh, absolutely. People be pissed. We've had that
Right.
happen.
Right. You know, so they're like, it's this idea and we've normalized it. Like, we've had it so long, we like don't even think about it anymore. Okay.
Right.
But what if the now billionaire class, right, and moved from the millionaire class to the billionaire class, decided they no longer wanted a middle class anymore.
Interesting. And so we kinda
I,
see that happening, right? Right now.
and so it right, like we are thinking that the norms that have been in place, precedent. We talk about precedent a lot. We talk about laws. But at the end of the day, what this administration is showing us is that all that is fluid. Even John Roberts has come out and said that.
Really?
He's come out and said precedent isn't, isn't a thing. Like, it doesn't mean that it's forever. Legislation is what lasts. But precedent is not legislation. Precedent is not, right. Like, I mean, you think about it. For 60 years in this country, Plessy versus Ferguson was precedent.
Yes.
Okay. What happens if a court didn't come along and say, well, it's, and say, we're going to overturn precedent and give you something else, right? And said, well, this is now the law of the land. And until legislation comes along and says that this isn't the law of the land, we're
Or
gonna
you
we're gonna
change it.
stick with it.
Right.
So this idea, right? And I've said that I've said this on past shows. You look at Roe v. Wade, right? Roe v. Wade was never law. Everybody kept talking about it as if it was precedent. It was
Precedent.
never law. They never legislated it. Okay. And just like Plessy versus Ferguson, it can be overturned. Okay. Our laws in this country are all fluid. This idea that people, the right, the left, keep talking about the law, right, or the Constitution, as if somehow it's like written in concrete stone, and this is the way it's always been in this country, and this is the way it always will be in this country, is wrong. We are now seeing the ever evolving changing that essentially our laws are dictated to us by a political and what I like to call the Epstein class, okay, on the rest of us.
Mm.
Okay. And that becomes right. So you start now looking at the world much differently. It becomes now the idea that whatever we thought were norms, whatever we thought were laws, can change on a dime. And it's going to be whatever they tell us they are. And it's now become much more fluid. I've actually, talked to a number of attorneys who've actually said that to me. That precedent, that laws, it's up to interpretation of a judge and of your political class. Okay? We are seeing judges being put in place with different ideologies. That the norm is no longer what we think it is. Okay? They're establishing new norms.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So this idea that and this is what, so the reason why I'm talking like this, and the reason why I say this is why it becomes important for us to understand what the surveillance state actually means, right? So we did a previous episode on the DMV on this idea that there are now cameras, they link the DMV up to AI. Okay, so we've gone through that. I refer everybody back, go watch that episode. I think it's a
Yeah.
really good
It's
episode. I think it's really informative, and it really dovetails into this what I'm talking about now, in the idea if there aren't those, if we thought we had privacy protections, right? Because we had a Fourth Amendment right, and we had this and we had that. But at the end of the day, we've given all that up. Those no longer exist. Okay. So now you get picked up on camera doing something, you can be arrested. Okay. And it doesn't have to be something illegal. It could be something you thought was legal at the time, but then they decided that it was now illegal to do. And you say, I know that you say that's crazy, but we are seeing it. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question right
Okay.
now, Denise.
Okay.
You have money in a bank, right?
Yes.
You believe that to be your money.
Uh, Up until you asked me this question, yes.
Can the government take that money from you anytime without reason and without warrant, without any type of notification whatsoever? Can they take that money from you? Can they seize it?
Well, I used to think no, not without notice, not without a reason, not without some sort of court warrant, something.
Until I ask
But
that question, right?
until you asked that question,
Right.
now that we are living in the surveillance state.
Right. So they've been poking at the law with regard to stealing people's assets via asset forfeiture. I've done a lot of work on this, right? I actually fought a misdemeanor asset forfeiture law in this county way back in 2015 when DA Hoover was pushing it at the county level. And this is they've been expanding the laws and their surveillance on bank accounts. Okay, this whole
Really?
idea, the next idea iteration, right, is the idea that you have to prove citizenship to have a bank account. But they got rid of the penny. They're pushing people more towards, we want you to use debit cards, we want you to use some type of money card, right? They're trying to move us towards a cashless society. Okay,
Yes.
and the monitoring of your bank account went from $10,000 to $400, right? A lot of people don't know that, right? You do a $400 transaction and they're monitoring like Venmo and some of the apps, right? If you move over a certain amount of money via the apps, all of a sudden you can be under scrutiny. Now, if you've been paying attention to asset forfeiture laws like I have, what you've seen is throughout this country, the government seizing people's cash over and over again, and people having to fight with no money now because now their money is frozen, fight to get their cash back. And because of the laws that they have in place, and because they're civil laws, this is civil asset forfeiture, they're not criminal laws, it's up to you to prove that you're not doing what the government claims that you're doing with that money. So you have to
Wow.
prove the negative. And it becomes very, very difficult. A lot of people, right, have decided, believe it or not, more than not, a lot of people decide not to fight for their money because it would actually cost them more than what the government took to get it back. So you don't hear about the stories as much, but there are people who've been completely devastated by these laws. Now, you add the surveillance state to it, you add them investigating things that we do transactions that we might do on a daily basis, like donating to Act Blue. If you're a Democrat and you donate to Act Blue, and if at some point in time they decide that Act Blue is contributing to a terrorist organization, okay, being the Democratic Party, okay,
Right, right.
everybody who donated, all of a sudden, all their assets could be frozen, all their money could be gone, like that, like a snap of a finger, because now you are contributing and aiding and abetting to a terrorist organization.
You listening to this, folks? And we
And
don't
and if you
really have a rule of law left anymore to how do you defend against that?
right, exactly the point. Right? You have there the system is completely overwhelmed. Not only that, how do you fight against that type of brutality? Out of that, like you can't pay an attorney if you have no money.
Right.
No attorney is going to fight for you if you have no money, especially in civil court. It's just not going to happen.
And even if you do, and how are you going to get, we don't have a rule of law. So how do you assert any claims, right? because the laws are now turned so upside down.
What all you need to do, so, like, and again, I know everybody says don't compare to the Nazis, but what did the Nazis do, right? How did they fund the war? They went into people's homes, right, and they seized assets. Okay.
Right.
Well, there's nothing in your home really worth anything to the government. I mean, let's be honest. It's people aren't keeping rare paintings in their home, and if you are, you're probably a billionaire, so you're one of them. So at the end of the day, the only asset you got is whatever's in your bank account.
True.
And if
And
and
your
the
home.
government and the
Yeah.
government can seize that at any point in time. So, what we're seeing now is the government really taking over the banking industry in a way we've never seen before, creating a surveillance state through the DMV, okay, and through your bank, okay? And then all it takes is for the government to declare something you donated to as a terrorist organization, and it wasn't a terrorist organization when you donated to them, okay? And then they could just seize your assets, and you have no recourse. And listen, I understand I sound crazy. I understand it's that's just conspiracy. It's already happened.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. That's what drives me crazy is I am not saying anything that isn't already happening. Okay? It just you haven't heard about it yet. It's not on the scale that it everything is a test. They test something, see if they can get away with it, and then they roll it out into a larger scale. Okay?
Wow, that is interesting.
We only have a middle class because they've said we're allowed to have a middle class. They are now saying we don't want a middle class anymore. They started a war to make sure that we don't have a middle class anymore because now we're going to be the ones that have to pay for it. It's not like the billionaires are like, "Hey, you know, you guys need more money for a war. We're all in, tax us more." Right? Like we're still seeing here in New York, we can't even get a 2% tax increase on the wealthiest people in this state, right? Not everybody, right? Like just like the uber like multi billionaires
Billion
here, right?
dollars
Like
or more.
$1 billion or more. We can't even get that because they won't pay 1% or 2% more on income. Not
To
even their
contribute
wealth, but income to contribute. But
to the society
our
they benefit from, by the way,
right. And but RFK saying we need to work longer to pay off the debts that they're creating for us.
creating for us. Yeah,
Okay,
think about
so
that.
so that's where I want to leave it with everybody. I really want everybody to. This isn't a call to arms or anything like that. This is just a reality check of where we are, and maybe we need to rethink of what we're looking for in candidates. We need to start asking
Exactly.
better questions. Okay. And again, I'm not going to, I have no, listen, I'm not for Democrats or Republicans here. Okay. I'm not advocating for either. I think we need better candidates on both sides of the aisle. Okay. I think both sides suck. Both sides have gotten into the arms of the Epstein class, of this political class that just wants to abuse workers and keep workers down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need people who are going to fight for us.
Yeah. That's exactly what we need. And
So Denise,
well,
send us out. Wrap us
yeah.
up.
I don't know, is that what is so okay, we need good candidates, but what can people do right now? What advice can you give to people that are watching this and are saying, "Okay, what the fuck am I gonna do? Do we take all our money
These
and throw it in a mattress?"
I, yeah, listen, I got nothing. I don't have that answer yet. When I do, I will let people know. I really have no answer for that one yet. As to what to do next. If somebody has better answers than me, please share them with me. I would love to share them with the people who watch us. I am constantly thinking about that. Right? What's next? There are other things that we'll probably talk about on other shows related to the war. I know Denise wants to talk about that and various other things. So that I'm sure will come up in those topics. Why I'm pessimistic on the dollar, but I there's a lot of work here. There's a lot of work here. What people can really do now, though, is if they really care about their own personal income and they care about the value of their own personal wealth, start showing up to your local committee meetings, right?
Oh,
Democrat
that's
and
good.
Republican, right? Right now in January and February is the time when most of these municipalities, whatever you want to call it, are choosing their local candidates to run for your local town boards, your local village boards, your local, the local municipal, whatever, highway superintendents, whatever you want, right? Your county legislator, whatever it is. Now's the time to start showing up. Now's the
Right.
time to start asking those questions. Don't go along with your local committee. If you want to run.
Yeah.
Okay? If you have better ideas, make them beat you on your ideas. These shouldn't be popularity contests. Hold town halls. Bring people together. Stop sitting home on your couch. Get off your couch, right? Start participating. If there is somebody in office and you've already passed the time when you can't run, right? Hold them accountable. Okay? Don't show up to the meeting and say, I support this guy because he's the candidate my party picked. Does that
Right.
candidate represent your values? Hold them accountable to those values. Great. If they
There you
do
go.
represent your values, then hold them to it. Don't allow them to get into office and then say, well, this was my guy, so I got to stick with him, even though he doesn't vote where I want, or where he said.
And we are seeing that. We are seeing that. Yeah,
Keep the
I just
pressure
want
on.
you said, I just want to add this one thing because you mentioned this before we started recording. Was that I guess it was APAC held a like a rally on over the weekend the other day, and
I
APAC
don't know
is,
when they did it. Yeah, APAC
but
threw a rally on Long Island, and their honored special guests were MAGA Mike Johnson and Hakeem Jeffries. Those
Democrat
are the two
Hakeem Jeffries.
honorees.
Think about
And
that.
what
Two
they said
sides of the
was
same
is
coin.
right, and then what they said was is you see, two sides can come together, right, for a common cause.
Which
What's
is
their common cause?
billionaires paying, putting money in their pockets. That's the
Right.
common cause.
The common
And
cause is the billionaire Epstein class. That's the common cause. And we need to understand that this is not left or right. This is top versus bottom. Okay. And we need to stop thinking about left and right. People got to stop viewing me and Denise as being leftist. Right?
yeah,
We're not leftist. Right? You know, I'm not a Democrat. She's a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. Okay. We are not leftists. We are actually more centrist
more so,
than see, the problem is everybody, the political class has gone so far to the right.
to the right.
It's the right and right. Like, it's not a right versus left issue because there is no left in this country. We have no left. Stop thinking of Hakeem Jeffries as the left or Schumer
Oh
as the
God.
left. They love telling people that because it's like the scary boogeyman, and it's as if you are left of Schumer and Jeffries, okay, right, and you're for the
You're in the
working
middle.
class, right, and you're for the working class like Mamdani, right, then you're considered a communist. I can tell you this one thing. I've heard Mamdani speak a million times. That man is not a communist.
I,
He
I
is
know,
not a
right?
communist, right? He is far from being a communist. Okay, but he is more of what a centrist, right? Really more like what a centrist looked like in the 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's where the center was 50 years ago. So you think about that. I mean, he's not advocating for communist values. He's advocating for workers and
For
working
working
people.
class values and the middle class
Right.
values, which is the whole point of where we got started. And as our politicians have been paid off with billionaire dollars, we have seen our politics shift more and more to the right. And so someone like Mamdani, who's really, if he was around, like you said, 50 years ago, this would be normal stuff, just supporting the working class. Now, you're automatically on the extreme for wanting a better life for working people, more affordable housing care, more affordable anything.
Well,
So,
it's interesting, right? If a lot of people today, have moved towards white collar jobs, right? I mean, this country, we still have blue collar jobs, but they're not as prevalent as they were. More people have moved into service industry
right.
positions, those type of positions. Okay. You know, um, and there's still this idea that when we talk about the working class in this country, okay, that people who are white collar think that you're not talking about them. You're talking about only blue collar, right?
Right. Right.
A person who makes $1 million in New York is no different than somebody who makes $50,000 in like the Midwest, right? Or in the South. Okay. I know that sounds weird, right? But there are cost of living issues.
Oh,
There
I
are
totally get that.
lifestyle issues, right? So there are things that separate, but you guys have more in common than you do with the billionaires, right? Like this idea that somebody who earns $1 million is going to think they have more in common, right? That's the illusion, right? The illusion of, right. And I go back to this. I'll say it again. The illusion of choice. It's the illusion that they're trying to tell you that there are these two sides, right, that are pushing against each other, and that somewhere in the middle, right, you're going to find that balance. But your two sides are on the right. There are no two sides making arguments, right? Like, let's be honest. There are not two sides. Like, it is literally the same side of the same argument, right? And people who like say, "Oh, there's a big difference between," like people who get mad at me, when I say that they're two sides of the same coin, or, that there's no, right? The differences are really marginal. Okay. And, you've been given the illusion that there's actual real difference. Okay. And there's just not. The big beautiful bill passed. It passed because Democrats wanted it to pass. They may not have voted for it, but they wanted it to pass. They allowed it to get through cloture. Okay?
Yes.
Right? Like, so you're being given an illusion. The illusion is there. Okay? There are these side deals. There are these backroom deals. Okay? These people are not on your side. They're not for the working class. They talk like they are, but their actions don't match their rhetoric.
That is
And
true.
the sooner you come to that conclusion, and the sooner we elect people like Ghazale in Chicago,
Graham
okay,
Plattner in Maine.
Graham Plattner in Maine, right? Efton Bain. I mean, I feel so sorry for this woman. I feel so sorry. If you know anything about Tennessee, okay, where she ran, and she's still a state legislature, okay, she's sitting there like, okay, we have real serious issues. We have to help farmers, right? And the Republicans are on the other side going, well, if you have a miscarriage, we think you should be, there should be capital punishment for miscarriages, right? Like, I mean,
That's Tennessee.
how
Yep.
how do you have you have one side fighting for farmers, and you have another side looking to put women, to put women in the
To put women to
chair,
death
the electric
yeah,
chair,
for
right,
something that
for
happens
having a
naturally.
miscarriage. Right.
Yeah.
You know, there, like, this is, but here's the thing. And Afton Bain is considered to be far left, right? But she's not. She's actually right. She's just right of center. She's not a progressive. She's just right. I mean, this is Tennessee politics. She's just right of center, right? But because it's a man on the other side, right? And
Right.
because there's so much misogyny, right? We give credibility to the argument that we should put women in the chair for having a miscarriage.
Is this where we're at?
I
Oh, well,
mean,
Project 2025 is all hatred towards women. If you just peruse any page in there and there's some anti-woman, you know, statement. They don't want us to have bank accounts, they don't want us to have jobs, they don't want us to have our own thinking. They want our men to vote for us, right? Men are going to vote for the whole household now. That's what they want. They want to take away our right to vote, take away our voices, take away our choices. Yeah,
but do you think of what you just said? Take away your There are no choices. You're not being given any choices. None of us are being given
good point.
choices. We're being given the illusion of choice.
That's true.
Okay? I really like it. I understand. Like it took me a really long time to get where I am. So I understand, Denise, like me and you have these conversations, right? And 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 you hear what I'm saying, but it's like your thought process immediately goes back because you haven't rewired your brain to see, right, that what you're being presented is an illusion.
Right. Right. No,
Right?
it's hard to consciously want to accept that. We wanna believe that we live in a free country, right? And we wa excuse me, sorry, I'm still suffering here. But we wanna believe that we live in a free country and that we have the freedom to well, this is the whole middle class, dream, the streets paved with gold, that we can go out, work, save up, buy a home, have a little picket fence, and build a family. And now they're going out of their way to take even that option away. Go back to Davos, and they wanna create a rental society. They wanna nickel and dime you for every freaking thing.
Get so I'm gonna I
Any way to
love the
get your
state
money.
I love the statement that you made, right? Because you said the key word, right? The idea that you can buy things, right? You can buy, right? The American dream is streets are paved with gold, right? Wait, let me see if I get your quote right. That you can that you can own a home, okay?
Work
That
hard,
you
save
work
up, buy a
hard, you
home.
could have the picket fence, right? That's the American dream that you were sold. That's
Right.
the illusion.
That's the
Right
illusion.
there is the illusion. When the American dream was coined, okay, back in the 1800s, the American dream was coined, okay? It was the idea that people could come to America and that your whatever you wanted, whatever your dream was, could be your reality. Your dream, your American dream was yours and yours alone. It was individualistic to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere during, I want to say, the 80s, when Reagan got into office, and maybe even before, right? Like maybe you want to go back to sort of that FDR era. We could kind of say that they changed the meaning of the American dream. The American dream was to attain wealth,
Mm,
to accumulate wealth. That was not the American dream for people coming to this country. People came to this country for all different reasons. People didn't always come, right, because of money to accumulate wealth. People came to this country for all sorts of reasons. They came to this country for religious freedom. They came to this country to live off the land. They came to this country to have a more rugged lifestyle, right? Like, I mean, you came to this country for so many different reasons, and that's why he coined the phrase the American dream, was because it was really the only place in the world, right, where you could come and really, and they kind of said be free,
right. And now
because you
that's
didn't
an
have the
illusion.
right. And then somewhere along the way they decided we're going to change that. That was no longer the American dream. So now we revere, we idolize, not revere, we idolize, okay, the Epstein class, because of their accumulation of wealth, because they did it. That's the American dream that we all aspire to. Let, let,
Right.
let's be
Let's
clear about that. Okay. Um, but that's the belief, and that's
But that's
why
what they've steered us towards, to idolize wealth as if, and so we should let these people run the country because they're successful business people and they've become wealthy and powerful, not realizing that a lot of their power comes from our wealth, right? Through
and
whether it's through rigging the markets or getting tax contracts that paid with our tax dollars, or it's through generational wealth.
but that's what we've
Excuse me.
seen with the files, right? So
Excuse
the
me.
one thing the files showed us is that the wealth that they accumulated was not because they did something special or because that they, you know, maybe had a good idea, but what we've seen is that their wealth generation was all engineered through backroom deals, through information sharing, through insider trading, right? Through this orchestration and directing of industry.
Right.
Okay. So again, it comes down to you are given an illusion. This is all an illusion. Okay. Not to sound too matrixy about this, but it the you are really being given the choices that you're being given by the left and the right, because I've heard it from my friends on the left for decades now. We can't do that, we don't have the votes, that's unrealistic, right? It's the I can't try, I don't want to succeed. But who tells you that? Who is feeding you that information? Where is the source of your information coming from? It's coming from the same elite political and Epstein class that we've seen over and over and over again. They fill you with this propaganda. But at the end of the day, the one thing this administration has shown us, the one thing that has been really clear is we can do it. This idea that we can't do stuff is wrong. We can do it. There is a will to do it, right?
Right.
And now we know that there's a way to do it. This idea that we can't do things, right? Or it's to this, or it's to that, or it's communist, or it's this, or it's that. You know, people were saying the same thing about Social Security and Medicare in this country. That those were socialism. That was communism taking root in America. Okay? Yeah, they're socialist programs. They're socialist programs that help working class people.
Right.
Okay. And it's nothing wrong with having, right, programs that help lift working class people up so that they can live in this country, right? And if that means taxing the billionaires a little bit more so that we can all live a little bit better, okay, yeah, that's worth it because we clearly know what they're doing with their money.
Their money,
Okay.
our money, our money. A
Right.
lot of it's our
What
money.
they're doing with our money, okay, we know what they're doing with our money because it's been now reported,
Right.
right? In the Trump files. This has clearly been reported over and over again what they've been doing. So they're not creating jobs with their tax breaks. They are not investing in America, right? They are not, you know, doing philanthropy that helps, us live better lives and contributing to our local communities. They're doing none of those things, right?
Oh,
Now it's time to tax them.
yeah. Take some of that back. So there you have it. This has been an interesting topic. And I think this is far more than local. This is everywhere. Everywhere should pay attention to this. Look, folks, bottom
It's
line
all
is
local.
just,
It's all
yeah,
local.
bottom line is this is not left or right. We keep saying this and we're not the only ones who say this. This is top versus bottom. You have to stop like idolizing these billionaires and just see them for the pieces of shit they really are. We need to and re need to we need to unionize. We need to unify with each other. We need to sit down and have conversations, and we need to start really looking at the people that are running for office. And if we don't have a good candidate, fucking get out there and sign up. There's still time. Run for something. Be that person. We all got to do that, especially you young people, because whatever
Become the leader
happens,
we deserve.
yes, that, that you deserve. Be the leader you deserve. You know what?
Yes.
Because really, the younger generation is what's going to carry us through this. Us old folks, too many people in my age group, I can't even argue with. I can't even talk to anymore. They're so, even myself, we're so set in our ways that it's hard to see what's really happening. And some people just don't want to move. So young people, we're counting on you. Save us. All right. So this has been an interesting conversation. Would love to hear some comments, what you think. And so please leave them below. And in the meantime, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. As always, it goes a long way to helping us to continue to do the work that we're doing. And we appreciate all of our followers. We've gotten some new ones this week. And thank you so much for sticking by us. And we will see you soon. Take care, everybody. We love you.
Peace out.